Hello and welcome to Startup Street. I'm Shruti Mishra and with me is Arundhati Ramanan. These are the top headlines from the startup space. Cybersecurity company Safe Security raises $50 million in Series B funding round led by Sorensen Capital, 8 Roads and others. The company has now raised more than $100 million across rounds.
Amicus Capital and existing investors have invested $27.5 million in Acus, a contract manufacturing company. The maiden round of external investment will be used to scale up manufacturing capabilities to serve both domestic and international clients.
Apple CEO Tim Cook opens the door to India's first retail store in Mumbai's Pandrakula complex as hundreds wait to get their first experience of the store. A second store is scheduled to be inaugurated in Delhi the day after as the company kicks off a major expansion in the country.
Apple and Alphabet have raised concerns with Amazon after learning that sexually explicit photographs could be accessed by children on the Kindle application and called on Amazon to strengthen its content moderation. As per Reuters, users have been able to access and view online volumes of photographs of naked women.
Chinese regulators are expected to fine Ant Group about a quarter less than the more than $1 billion initially planned and downgrade their charges against it, Reuters reports. This comes as they seek to end a year-long crackdown on marquee technology firms.
Multiplex spends rose 173% year-on-year between April 2022 and March 2023, bolstered by the release of mass-appeal films like Pathaan and KGF 2. Spends on flight tickets rose by 83% YOY. Spends on dining out more than doubled during the year, and broadband spending, however, dropped by almost 80%. Now, these are just some of the interesting findings of Razorpay's latest payment report for the year ending March 2023. And to take us through some of the highlights of this, joining me now is Rahul Kothari, who is the Chief Business Officer at Razorpay. Rahul, thank you for your time here on Startup Street. And if I could start by asking you, the report has some very interesting findings, difficult to sum all of it up, but what were the top 3 highlights, if you will?
Sure. I think for me, the most interesting highlights is more anecdotal in nature, the sense that India is a country of good food, of cricket, and of movies. So some very interesting points. We saw a significant rise in number of food transactions, which swelled to 1.7 times the average during the FIFA World Cup final on 18 December between 8:30 p.m. and midnight, making it the 4th busiest Sunday in 23. On the other side, Virat's inning in the Adelaide Cricket Ground on 23rd October led to almost 40% drop in payments volume. So quite literally, Virat brought India to a standstill. Now, in addition, the release of Pathaan led to a massive 70% jump in multiplex transactions. And while KGF's release also caused a 4x spike in the multiplex spending. So these are some of the very interesting highlights of the report.
Well, cricket, food, what's not to love, and movies, of course. But, what is the overall picture as far as Razorpay and its, the offline platform, EasyTap is concerned? What is the total rise in volumes and value that you saw for the year now that you've closed it? And what is your expectation from FY24?
Yeah, so we saw close to 88% increase in the offline in-store transactions. And I think what is even more interesting is what this 88% growth was contributed to. In fact, the highest spend increase was on apparel and jewelry. When COVID kind of went down and people were going out, a lot of focus was on purchasing what they wear. So apparel grew by 127%, jewelry by 88%, followed by electronics and grocery. So also, I think going ahead, we have pretty much expectation of growing to close to 80 to 100% in next year as well.
Yeah. If I were to break this down segment-wise, where in FY23 did you see the sharpest rise, and where did you see the steepest declines in spends?
Well, the sharpest rise was in overall entertainment and multiplex spends, close to 173%. I think people were pretty much bored of watching movies in-house, and they really wanted to go out and see some good movies. And also, I think some of these great movies which came out really helped it. The sharpest decline we saw was on the broadband spends, specifically in the metros. And I think mostly because people had more than one broadband connections because work from home was very prominent, and also high-speed broadband connections because of work from home or watching a lot of OTTs. That we saw a significant drop, close to 80% over this period.
But, Rahul, whenever we talk about this kind of an increase, and we've seen this several times in digital payments and spends after the pandemic, a lot of the time this is tend to be attributed to the pent-up demand because of the lockdown period. How much, of course, I don't know if you have numbers to this, but how much of the actual rise in spends is because of other factors like income growth versus just pent-up demand?
Well, these payments trends are mostly certainly a reflection of both the huge pent-up demand for travel and reopening of theaters, restaurants, and other public spaces, and an actual rise in spending. While we see heightened footfall in theaters and restaurants, we must also factor in how people are moving their expenditure towards experiences. With rise in spends on travel, hotel accommodation, and dine-outs, we are witnessing a change in consumer behavior and aim towards optimizing their spends for experiences. So, at large, while we still owe the resurgence in spending appetite to India's successful vaccination drive involving more than 2 billion doses, but at the same time, I think there's a significant shift in where the spend is happening, which I said is in terms of having more experiences, and that's what we continue to see a shift towards.
So then, would you say this is sustainable, or do you think now going ahead, inflation, slower growth, all of that will start to eat into some of the rise in spends that we saw last year?
I think a significant part of the rise will continue to happen, primarily for two reasons. One is the trend indicate that while inflation is slower, growth might affect the way the people are spending offline, online. India will continue the momentum of resurgence. At the same time, I think the overall shift of payments from cash to digital means is also one of the primary drivers, which will continue to drive the growth over the next few years.
All right, Rahul, thank you so much for joining us and taking us through the highlights of this interesting report that you've released. Many thanks. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Moving on, cold chain marketplace Celcius Logistics bagged 100 crore rupees in a Series A funding round. The round was led by Ivy Cap Ventures. Earlier, the startup had raised 35 crore rupees from investors like Mumbai Angels, Supply Chain Labs, Endurance Capital, and others. Now, the startup said that it would use the funds for tech innovations to solve fragmented supply chains and reduce waste. Joining us now to discuss this further are Vikram Gupta, the managing partner of Ivy Cap Ventures, and Swaroop Bose, the founder and CEO of Celcius Logistics. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Swaroop, let me start by asking you, you're a cold chain marketplace startup in sectors like food and pharma. How are you using tech to make this a seamless process for your clients?
Cold chain was always fragmented, and the biggest problem that it faced was neither the demand nor the supply knew where the other was. They didn't know how to connect with each other. They didn't know how to explore or find out what is available and what is not. So the simple solution was tech. Tech was the only thing that could solve for this, and a marketplace was the most simple solution that we could come up with.
All right. So you've raised 100 crore rupees. Swaroop, tell us, where will the funds go? Any new offerings in the pipeline?
Yeah, we have a lot of them. We have recently launched our hyperlocal services where we have got riders delivering pharmaceutical products, food, fresh supply across cities, not just within the same city. We are delivering it from one city to the other within 18 hours at certain temperatures. This has just been launched a couple of months back. Our warehousing division got launched about 3-4 months back. We are developing tech for all this, integrating that into our marketplace platform, creating a endless and seamless supply chain, and what we like to call it, create the true unbroken cold chain. So all that coming up in the next few months is going to be an exciting period for us, where we launch these products and scale them up.
All right, so launching quite a few new products in the next couple of months. Vikram, let me bring you into the conversation. What was the rationale behind investing in Celcius Logistics? What are the synergies that you see?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. We believe that cold chain logistics is one of the biggest problems that needs to be solved when it comes to issues of transporting food or pharma or any other perishable products out there. I think part of the reason why this problem hasn't been solved yet is because historically people have tried to solve this through very capital-heavy models. And I think what Celcius has done is actually a really unique model by actually creating a very asset-light model, bringing the demand and supply together on a single platform. And not just doing that by actually bringing the existing players on board, but also creating additional capacities by helping create capacities through the fleet owners, building new cold chain capacities, helping them get funded through some loans, etc. I think that model hasn't been done before, and over and above applying AI tools and a lot of data management tools and understanding the patterns in terms of the product requirements, etc. I think there's a huge role that the technology can play in this, and we are quite excited about what Celcius has achieved so far and what it can achieve with the funds it has raised.
Absolutely. Swaroop, talk to us about your top markets and clients. What have been the biggest challenges that you faced?
For us, our top market always has been the frozen sector, the frozen foods, the pharma sector, where we started our journey distributing COVID vaccines. We were so Celcius was born in the middle of the first wave of COVID, and there we picked up all other sectors that we could work with in the perishable market. What our journey has been till now has been about innovations to specific problems that the sector faces. We have always spoken to our clients. We have understood what they needed. We have not just innovated on the tech side, but also on the operational side. While we are a tech-first company developing technology, helping the supply chain, we are also a company which is looking into the actual journey. We talk to the drivers, we talk to the transporters, we find out what are the problems they face, and we come up with innovative solutions for the same. This is all backed by a technologically superior platform, one of the best platforms for cold supply chain out there. In fact, one of the only platforms, I would say, across the world that is concentrating on cold supply chain only.
Right. And Vikram, what's the opportunity that you see here with Celcius? How do you think they can transform the highly unorganized cold chain marketplace?
So I think so far this problem, as I was saying earlier, hasn't been cracked for various reasons. And I think if you look at the push that the government is making in improving the infrastructure of the country, that itself lays a very good foundation for a business model like Celcius. There are multiple issues in this sector, including multiple handlings. Each product requires a unique way of handling it. Capacity itself is a huge issue. So the timing of this, we believe, is ideal at this stage. And I think we believe that if India has to grow from a $3.5 trillion to $25 trillion over the next 25 years, you need cold chain logistics as a problem to be sorted. And I think the earlier you solve this problem, the better it is for India as a country. We really need this solution, and I think Celcius is very uniquely positioned in this space.
Absolutely. And Swaroop, if you could quickly tell me, what are the revenues you're clocking and where do you hope to end this year?
We are doing about 100 crore ARR right now, and we are hoping to triple that at the minimum by next year.
Right. All right, Vikram, Swaroop, we're completely out of time on the show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best going forward.
Thank you.
Well, with that, it's time for us to head into a short break. Up next, Apple launches its first store in India. We bring you a sneak peek from the flagship store in Mumbai's PKC. On the other side, stay tuned.
Yes. Quiet. Documents carefully before investing.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता, उछलता है, दौड़ता, कभी-कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
Welcome back to Startup Street. Artificial intelligence-based cyber risk management SaaS platform Safe Security has closed a $50 million Series B round led by Sorensen Capital with participation from 8 Roads, Telstra Ventures, WTI and all existing investors. This round brings the company's total funding to over $100 million. And to talk to us about the road ahead at Safe Security, joining me now in the studio is its co-founder and CEO, Saket Modi. Saket, welcome to Startup Street. Now, before we talk about the fundraise. Safe Security is a cyber risk measurement and management company. Tell me, how you're working, how you're empowering enterprises, and you work with real-time data. So how are you empowering enterprises, insurance carriers, regulators, all of them mitigate cyber risk? And if you can share some use cases as well.
Certainly. Firstly, Shruti, it's an honor to be back here with you. I miss being in person, so this is awesome. Thank you for having me here. It is a very exciting day for us because we think what the problem we are trying to solve, Shruti, is a very fundamental problem that has existed in cybersecurity for a long time. Let me explain what I mean by that. $170 billion is the total industry size of cybersecurity, growing at over 16% year over year, and even then, it is one of the top 10 concerns of boards around the world, according to World Economic Forum. It is one of the top 3 concerns if you ask any CEO of a large bank around the world. How is it that such a large industry growing so fast still is not able to answer some fundamental questions which boards are asking? And now it's not just boards. If you look at regulators, whether it's the SEC, whether it's the Reserve Bank of India, or some of the largest regulators, they are not happy with the way cyber is being managed. So the boards are not happy, the governing bodies internally, the regulators are not happy, and therefore they're stepping in to go in and actually create more regulations around cyber risk management. And even the people who actually transfer risk and accept risk in most companies, the cyber insurance companies, are not happy because the average premiums went double while the actual coverage came down by around 40% last year. And that's very counterintuitive. So if you think about it, something's fundamentally broken in order to go ahead and actually solve all 3 problems.
So and that's where you come in?
That's exactly where we come in, on how do you measure and then manage more effectively your cybersecurity risk posture and make things happen. So that's the reason why we've been obviously very fortunate to be growing extremely fast, and at the same time, that's the core of the problem we are solving in terms of how can you use AI and ML and apply that to the data sets that are contextual to your organization with external threat landscape, and it just makes sense out of it. That's what we do at Safe.
All right, Saket, let's come to the fundraise now. You've raised $50 million in a tough environment. Take me through the fund allocation plans. How do you plan to spend the fresh funds raised?
Very simple, product.
Okay.
I'm a big believer that the foundation of a great business is a great product. We aspire to create the world's greatest cybersecurity product. And if I may, I'll take to the extent that most B2B products that you see from an experience perspective, from a value delivery perspective, are very, very limited. We aspire to build the greatest cybersecurity product or B2B product that the world has ever seen. And that's the number one place where we'll be focused our investments in. Now, when you build a great product and it delivers the right value, automatically getting the right machinery on go-to-market and then coupling that with the right customer success naturally comes in, and then you have a true business which is scaled up. So, but it'll start with the product, and again, we aspire to create something that's truly world-class. Internally, we call it, we aspire to build an insanely great product, is what we are looking for.
You've built an insanely great product, and, you've been growing, over 200% year on year for the last 3 years. So take me through the current business growth numbers and also share with us some revenue projections.
Certainly. So I think 200% year-over-year growth is a good number. But one of the big things that I look at, Shruti, that I'm more proud of is actually the net retention and the gross retention. We are right now at 131% of net retention with a gross retention of 96%. The reason I say that is because a lot of times you can keep growing with a lot of new logos that you add, a lot of new revenue that you add, but the actual stickiness of a SaaS business, in my mind, the more important metric is the net retention. So that's something that I'm more proud of, about the fact that we've hardly seen any customer churn. And every time we enter a customer who pays us $100 in the beginning, at the end of the year ends up paying us $131. So I think that that's something which we're very excited about. And that is something that's fueling, and it shows the kind of value that we deliver to our customers and how hooked to the value or the product they become, and that I think is the foundation of building a really large SaaS business in years to come.
All right, Saket, generative AI is the talk of the town. We've got ChatGPT. So tell me, how are you looking to holistically, provide cyber risk visibility and also the points of attack exposure from new and emerging technologies?
That's a great question. And here's the thing, right? We've been using AI, ML for many years, and it is really not something, because I know today if I say that we use AI, ML, it almost sounds like a cliche, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, who's not using it? Of course, right? But if you think about it, the fundamental foundation of the business that we've actually set up, we've set up the business based on the data that we get. We are probably the single largest repository of cybersecurity signals for any cybersecurity vendor on the planet for a particular customer. And let me double click what I mean by that. When we go to an organization, and it's a large bank and a large airport, a large FMCG company, we integrate with their existing cybersecurity product. So we integrate with a CrowdStrike or a Palo Alto Networks or an Okta or a Wiz, etc., etc. Now, CrowdStrike only knows how secure your endpoints are. Palo Alto Network knows how secure your cloud and network is. What we do is we aggregate all of that. And keep this in mind, generative AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence is only as good as the data that you ingest into it. So what we do in a fundamental way is we're sitting on the largest repository, the most dense cybersecurity signals cloud in the industry. And the possibilities on top of it are endless of what we can do. So whether we create safe GPT, whether we use machine learning to become better in predicting cyber hacks, it's for years to come and for us to see in the near future. But I would say we can be a true machine learning startup more than a cybersecurity startup as we move forward.
All right. Very quickly, if you could answer that, with the current macro economic environment that we have, cybersecurity teams are reassessing and evaluating their cybersecurity investments. What new trends are you seeing?
I would say that the era of unlimited budget for cybersecurity is over. Today, even cybersecurity is going through scrutiny in terms of, hey, every year, every quarter you've come in and asked me for more funding as a cybersecurity leader. You need to now show me the return on investment for that. And that's exactly what, again, we come in and we help assess the return on investment for security investments.
All right. Before I let you go, what are the future focus areas for safe security? Talk to me about your top 3 markets and also, the revenue mix coming from India and the under countries and the big plan for safe security.
So 5 questions. I'll go in the first order, right? I think the revenue mix is obviously almost 70% of our revenue comes from the United States. And the next 3 countries are India, Australia, and the United Kingdom. So these are 3 countries outside of the US that we are very focused on and we want to double down on with our new funding also. When you talk about the future and, where this can go, we actually think we are solving a fundamental problem, which is actually a requirement for 200 countries around the world. Depends on how you define countries. But coming back to why I said this is that because of the kind of data that we have, and we don't look at us as a cybersecurity company only because we are a true machine learning plus cybersecurity company, we actually think potentially we can become the world's largest cybersecurity company, coupled with everything we do on data science. So that's how exciting the future looks like.
All right, and we wish you the very best for that. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but it was an absolute pleasure, Saket, speaking to you and having you in our studio.
It's an honor to be with you here. Thank you.
And on What's Brewing today, Apple opened its first retail store in India, underlining the tech giant's increased focus towards the nation. This week also marks 25 years of the tech giant's presence in India. Apple CEO Tim Cook threw open the gates of the 28,000 square feet retail store in Mumbai's Bandra Kurla complex to a throng of expectant Apple fans. A second retail store will be inaugurated in Delhi later this week. So why is Apple looking at India? It plans to curb its heavy dependence on China. With geopolitical tensions adding to the woes, a need was felt by the company to make supply chains more resilient.
India posted electronics exports of $10 billion in FY23. Of this export accounted for $5 billion. This was 3 times the FY22 export figure. Inspired by its recent successes, Apple now plans to triple production in the next 2 years. In fact, a recent report by JP Morgan indicated that the tech giant wants to shift manufacturing of 25% of all Apple products to India by 2025. Zenia.
Day of the awaited launch of Apple's flagship, the fans have lined up to take a sneak peek of their favorite gadgets. Let's take a look at what they have to say and their excitement. As you can see, the Apple store has finally opened. Okay, what do you wish to be when you grow up?
When I grow up, I want to buy the Apple company.
You want to buy the Apple company?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you like the launch today?
I liked it so much.
Really? Did you get a picture with Tim Cook?
Yes.
Show me. The Apple store that has finally launched in Mumbai now. How do you feel and have you picked up any products?
So I really feel that the Apple Store launch in India, Mumbai, BKC, the first Apple Store, which launched after like 25 years in India. It is really great. It is a big gift by Apple this year to Mumbai and to the people of India, basically.
Fantastic. I was the 5th person to enter this, and Tim Cook had personally hugged me and gave me a selfie too. So it was a great experience for me. It made my day. Well, thank you.
How about you? I've been waiting for this day since years, so you can imagine how overwhelming the feelings are. I mean, it's the first Apple Store in India. That's too good.
So Apple has finally opened its doors to the India market. But with that, it is a wrap on this side. Stay tuned.